It's good to be back. I was at the Palo Alto Meetup the last time we did this, so excited to come back and share the lessons learned from our own journey building the integration with Iceberg. Just a quick intro to ClickHouse for those of you that are not familiar with the technology. It is a column-oriented open source database. Claim to fame has been its blazing fast performance on massive volumes of data. Petabytes is something that we think of as small data. And it speaks SQL dialect very fluently, processes data very fast. You'll see fast be the recurring theme when we talk about the product. Highly efficient object storage compression rates. We see about 98% plus compression rates, and it can scale to adapt to any size, be it vertical, horizontal. We have multiple layers of cache built in that gives you the resiliency as well as the hot access to data. And a quick view into the open source project itself. We've been around for over a decade, and if you compare and contrast to other projects that have either been around for as long or have started around the same time, you'll see the meteoric rise in terms of GitHub stars, 43,000 stars and counting, 7,000 plus forks, 1,700 contributors, and close to 500 active contributors. With that, just talking about what makes ClickHouse special and fast is really all about the strong native format. It's optimized to deliver low latency query performance. It supports projections, materialized views, synchronized, asynchronized materialized views, has a wide variety of data types that it supports, and I'll get into that in more detail. And really, the goal was at the get-go for the project to be self-contained, so you don't necessarily need a lot of plugins to get started. Just if you have the binary, you can download and get set up without much customization needed. And it's just not that. I mean, as an open source project, we realized the investment in the ecosystem makes our product more stickier. So early days, a combination of community contributions as well as development efforts within the core engineering team itself, we built pretty robust integrations with Kafka, the different flavors, and we also have a wide variety of connectivity to other data sources. It could even be a transactional database. We are able to also support federated queries to Postgres, MySQL, and other data sources. And definitely the theme the last few years has been the need to integrate better with Iceberg and other lakehouse ecosystems. And that's pretty much where we focused on a bunch of our efforts in the past few months. And to anchor the conversation and what we did and the lessons learned, it's all around the Parquet reader. This is the one core area of focus for us as we improve optimizations, efficiencies when it comes to performance. And that's what I'll cover in detail in this section. I mentioned this before, ClickHouse has a very wide variety of data formats that it supports: Avro, JSON, Arrow, Parquet. And many of these, like I said, are partially contributed by the community, and many of it is something that we've developed in-house. Especially the ones that are contributed by the community, it requires a lot of upkeep. It really depends on how active the community is around it. It's an iterative process. We've seen V3, V4 be discussed. It's the same. The more we invest, more contributions, more committers we have, the better integrated that data format is. And for our Iceberg, primarily we use Parquet, and which is where we started. Early days in 2019 was the very first contribution. This was almost a hack. The community contribution used the Arrow library to parse files into ClickHouse format. And yeah, this was good, but not great, obviously, because you had to have this intermediary file that you had to rely on. So this didn't gain much traction. And around the time, there was a lot of demand with the emergence of Iceberg and other lakehouse formats, just having a more native mode of reading. And we had a community contribution early last year. This was aiming to remove the use of Arrow, which is a good prerequisite, but at the same time, when we looked at the PR, it was unfortunately not being complete enough for us to merge because the performance benefits wasn't that great. And also, just the feature parity-wise, it wasn't as complete. I mean, it was less so compared to the Arrow version of the library that we built. And fast forward to 6 months after, for lack of a better name, we introduced, there was a contribution with Parquet Reader v2. This was promising at the beginning because the initial internal benchmark results showed about a 50% performance boost. And again, the goal was the same: remove the dependency on the arrow format and make it more native. But here again, we ran into several roadblocks. It wasn't complete, and the ClickHouse CI pipeline is pretty complex. You need to really invest cycles into making sure that you fix the tests, and it ultimately never made it all the way through, so it was closed. And this is where the ClickHouse engineering team really stepped in. We said, okay, we've given it this go a couple of times already, so it's time, if we want to really harden our Iceberg integration, we needed to invest our own cycles into making this better. And overall, I mean, we went through a lot of lessons learned, but we've been successful, and this PR was successfully merged in June of this year. And what I'll focus on is just like the lessons learned from this and the work that we're investing to better this integration. As we talk about performance many times across the board, it's common for us to also apply the same for the Parquet Reader. As you'll see from the V1, the arrow format, to the one that we just merged, we've seen about 80% performance improvements. This is a good measure of how successful this reader is. That being said, I mean, we had a lot of lessons learned along the way. And before I get into that, it's interesting to also look at how common is the ClickHouse native format with Parquet. So in ClickHouse, we have multiple data formats, but importantly, there are two that we use more heavily: the white part and the compact part. In the white part, it's essentially a column per file, and then there's a mark file, which tells you where to go look for a particular data. And then we have the offset that you set within a file when you're using a primary index. So as you can see, there are a few files already here, but there are many more. So you have skipping index files, column name files, and all of these at scale results in a lot of files, which consumes a lot of memory. And when you use it with object storage, it introduces a lot of tail latency, which is not great for a real-time analytics solution. And that's where we have this notion of compact parts, which was introduced a little later, was really to compress all of these files. And that overall results in lower memory consumption, especially when you have many columns in a table. The compact part is a lot more efficient. So by default, in a lot of ways, ClickHouse, when it does inserts, it uses compact parts. It's better for that, and white parts is used for reading. And you'll see the similarity here. So basically, this essentially translates like to like in a lot of ways to Parquet. You have the row group, the concept of row groups, columns, pages, and in ClickHouse, so sort of the terminology, how it maps. The part maps to a Parquet file, block is a page, skipping indexes is the page level stats, and column level stats carries the same name. And really, with this similarity, you'd almost think, why did people get it wrong so many times? And there is a good reason. But before I get into that, really pleased to report on the progress that we've made in under a year. If you look at 24.11, ClickHouse has a monthly release cadence. So that's what you'll see. 24 is 2024. 11 is the release as of November. From there to 25.8, which is the August release, this year, we've almost attained feature parity for where we felt like an MVP should be in terms of catalog integrations, partition pruning, statistics, all the different things that makes it a more full, complete solution for an Iceberg integration we've been able to accomplish. And really then digging into what we encountered, I mean, I encountered several different issues. But a couple I'll stress on that was kind of interesting is the deadlock issue. So around the time that we were building the V3 reader, we also were working on the equality and the positional deletes. So all of these projects coming together at the same time meant that we weren't aware of contention, features that didn't work well together. And this was like a classic scenario of convergence of different work streams. And we actually tested the equality positional deletes with V3 Reader, we ended up seeing a lot of deadlocks, especially when there was an equality delete, the notion of having to read, and basically the Parquet helpers taking up thread pools meant that some of the queries never fully ran. So that was an interesting issue, and we also realized that much of this we uncovered later because Iceberg did not have a C++ library support. And interestingly, as of 3 months back, I believe there is one. So with that, I think we'll be able to contribute back to the community what we've built and see where it goes. I mean, there's a lot of lessons learned as a part of maturing both the C++ library as well as the Parquet reader. So this was one of those interesting problems that we had to unblock. This is fixed, not merged yet. It's going through the regression tests as we speak. And the other interesting problem, I mean, it's surprising and unsurprising at the same time, is it seems simple, but yeah, it was a lot more complex because we found it only during our testing. When you write a data to Iceberg, you have a metadata that's created in Iceberg, and then that translates to Parquet metadata. Basically, the metadata tells you the structure of the table, the column names, types, et cetera. And then the same is mapped to Parquet, where you have a column ID, column name. So we made an assumption that the column names matched. So any column name that you insert into Iceberg should match with Parquet. And unit tests worked great, but when we introduced more writers, we realized that that assumption was incorrect. Basically, we had to then switch to using field ID, especially when you're doing column projections, and that pretty much unblocked the test. So this showed the value of our more robust CI/CD pipeline, where we were able to find all of these tests before we were able to merge the PR. Yeah, this is all of the work that's up ahead. Basically, our focus is on stability. We are able to turn this on selectively for customers that want to participate in the preview. I'll flash the preview link as well, and just where you can sign up. We are going to focus on more bug fixing, fix the reader, support for V3, and definitely a lot of focus on writes. We've come a long way with just the support for equality and positional deletes, but supporting the ability to write is very important. We realized this along the way of building the reader V3. By being able to write, we strongly feel we're able to uncover issues early on, and basically when we're able to write and basically have that other readers be compatible, we'll realize issues early on. And overall, it will improve our testing framework, so there's definitely value in us building this further. And last but not the least, I lead all of the cloud platform. So for me, it's extra special and important to make sure that we are able to offer this experience within cloud, being able to set up, configure your catalog, and have a native query experience. If any of you have tried ClickHouse Cloud, you'll see it's got a pretty robust user experience with the query time. And that's something that we want to also build into what we do with Iceberg. I kept it quick. I hope that was helpful. Any questions? Oh, they have the mic.
I have a mic. You want to ask a question? Here.
Yeah, Krithika, thanks for your presentation. So if I understand it correctly, what you said, you worked on the Parquet, whatever you call it, Parquet Reader V2, right? Where you improve the performance over Parquet Reader. And you are going to contribute to the, so that Iceberg can take benefit out of it.
The V3 is for ClickHouse, yeah. But the C++ library that we built is what we're planning to contribute. I mean, there's already something that's now in the Iceberg repo. We are looking at the delta to see what are our contributions that are specific to the community contribution as well. Yeah.
So should we consider if there is an Iceberg, somebody has implemented Iceberg and they are working with multiple engines, can we treat ClickHouse as another engine?
So for reading, so basically.
For reading and writing both.
Yeah, so reading, yes, you should be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Writing, yeah, is still to come.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions from anyone? It's your time. Ask anything.
Or if you're shy, you can come find me outside. Thank you so much.
Cool.
I hope I gave you back some time.
This is perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.